Good morning again, and welcome to the 2026 AAAS annual meeting SciMic stage, supported by the George Washington University. It's being presented here in Phoenix, but you can also watch online at the AAAS annual meeting YouTube page, I believe. But we are at the final interview of this morning slots of interviews, and so we're going to end with Julianne McCall, CEO of the California Council on Science and Technology. Welcome to the SciMic stage.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As CEO of the California Council on Science and Technology, CCST for short, it's my role to coordinate this fiercely nonpartisan science advisory organization that provides supports and services to the executive branch as well as the legislature in the California Capitol in Sacramento. We are a team of about 37 at the moment, most of us with Ph.D.s from such different disciplines, working with our colleagues who don't have that science background, who really keep the trains running. Right? That's our communications staff, our admin staff, our policy engagement staff, who provide us those opportunities to be the confidential, more often than not, science and technology advisors to policymakers.
Can you tell me a little bit about, you are part of a workshop that is tomorrow, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Can you give us a preview of what you'll be discussing there?
My pleasure. The workshop is on science policy writing, as when we are trying to convey our ideas, our information, our recommendations to policymakers, to appreciate the different culture of policymaking.
Oh, interesting phrasing.
How that's translated through one's writing. I had the great privilege of serving previously, until just 2 weeks ago, as the CEO of another nonprofit organization, and that is the Journal of Science Policy and Governance. For over 15 years now, it's been international open access platform, primarily for early career professionals, to get their policy recommendations and ideas out into the world. And we couldn't be more proud to have named the 5th CEO, Lori Zabala from Research America. So I'm happy to hand over those reins, but before I completely leave the face of the earth from the JSPG world, we are hosting that workshop tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. on science policy writing. With my CCST hat, we are also hosting 2 different panels, both in science and technology policy, as well as another panel on the Sci4Pol collaborative launch, improving the impact and the reach of science and technology policy programs at the local, state, and federal level. And I'm happy to list out those other panels too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with CCST, we have Science Services Manager Dr. John Thompson moderating At the Border, Climate Change and Human Mobility. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. I have the great honor of moderating a panel at 11:30 tomorrow, and that is Paving the Way for a Hydrogen-Powered Energy Future. And that is showcasing some true leaders with over 20 years at DOE, the former director of the hydrogen program, Dr. Satyapal, as well as Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory scientist and others. In the morning, I imagine many of you are also participating in the Sci4Pol Collaborative, and that is boosting U.S. science policy, program capacity, and impact. 3.5 hours we'll spend together brainstorming and developing some next steps.
I know you have a busy schedule, so I really appreciate you joining me today on this SciMic stage. So if I can ask about you real quick and about the work you do, what has motivated you to pursue your line of work?
Oh, that's such a thoughtful question. You know, so many of us get into the sciences because we want to change the world.
Yes.
And policy is just another avenue through which to do that. And having that scientific lens, is a superpower, In the words of Carl Sagan, to have that baloney detector, embedded within your approach to problems and complexities in the world. Data are data, no matter whether they're talking about what state services citizens and community members are receiving, or whether it's a microarray of genetic analyses across the rodent genome or something like this, right? Data are data, and we have that capacity, right? We're trained in order to tell the difference between baloney and not baloney.
And it's great when you're able to have kind of interdisciplinary connections, or even if you in one of our previous interviews, like mixing and matching a background. So given all of that, what would you say to someone who is aspiring to do similar work, since we have a lot of students who are attending this conference?
You know, CCST is 17 years into hosting the Science and Technology Policy Fellowship in the California Capitol. So if you are, if you have your PhD and you are curious about a one-year experiment as a staff member in a policy office, please apply to our program. Apart from that, we recognize that there are thousands more interested scientists and engineers than we have positions. So CCST actually produced a career guide for policy careers for scientists and engineers. So I highly encourage you to make your way to ccst.us and download that freely downloadable PDF and see what we have come up with in terms of how to develop your resume, how to engage with some of these very precious networks like NSPN and ESAL and ESEP and others, to give yourself that confidence that the scientific, the technological skills that you have been developing as a specialist are so well transferable to the policy world.
And speaking on, I feel like you're giving advice already, but talking about mentorship, how has that maybe played out in your career trajectory or just in your field in general?
You know, it's so special. I had the wonderful privilege of attending the presidential plenary yesterday, Dr. Teresa Maldonado, and she put it well when she recognized her professor from Georgia Tech, Dr. Tom Gaylord, if I'm not mistaken, and the conversation that she and I and Dr. Shirley Malcolm had afterwards, that to have a mentor is to have someone who sees in yourself something that you might not even see yet.
Wow.
Right? And to foster that, right? It really is such a powerful thing to have someone you respect acknowledge, you're really quite talented in this way. And I think because so many of us come through the scientific academia field, we are often not encouraged to think highly of our skills beyond the extreme technical realm.
Right. And speaking of this similar lane of mentorship, has there been any advice that you have received throughout your career that has stuck with you?
You know, my PhD thesis advisor, Dr. Armin Blesch, now at University of California, San Diego, like Dr. Malcolm and Dr. Maldonado mentioned, we spent many years together, right, in spinal cord injury research, doing really intense work, 7 days a week, right? We're working with animals, right? The surgical skills required in that line of work. And he acknowledged, right, that I was particularly keen and talented at bringing people together to have the conversation across disciplines with the medical doctors as well as with the patients, right, who are housed under one roof in our institute at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. And that sat in the back of my mind and propelled me forward in starting, right, organizations outside of the realm of academia, and those were TEDx conferences and science outreach programs for high school students, right? Looking around the world and thinking to myself, there really ought to be this and that, and looking in the mirror and saying, well, why don't I start it, right? There's enough interest, like, let's just do it.
Wow, that's so good. Pivoting a little bit, I've been asking interviewees about what they're reading, and some folks have also given hobbies that they're interested in, because we are scientists and we study science, but we also do other things as human beings, right? And so I wanted to ask, what are you reading right now, or any particular hobbies that you would like to share?
My entire adult life, I've been a keen subscriber of The Economist. I often read those weekly magazines, news magazines, cover to cover. I can't get enough of the insight and the wisdom embedded. The Atlantic is another, right, incredible resource of deep thought. New York Times, of course, every single day. But apart from that, right, by the side of my bed, I have Octavia Butler's 4-part series, starting with Wild Seed. And my goodness, if you need a dose of inspiration within the context of apocalypse, look no further than Octavia Butler, right? To have that courageous leadership, right, modeled for you in a science fictional book series, that's all the inspiration we need, right, to stand up and do something in these difficult times.
My reading list is becoming quite long already, and I have another day of interviews. But I wanted to ask for your final thoughts as we get to the end of this interview that you have for listeners here in Phoenix or listening in online.
Any advice, you said?
Yes. Any advice or final thoughts that you would like to share?
Sure. You know, as so many speakers have been commenting on, these are not normal times. Right? We are not snapping back to any semblance of what was recognizable previously. And it is going to take all of us working in concert, right? Dividing and conquering, not being overwhelmed by that muzzle velocity coming out of Washington, D.C. and elsewhere, that it's only through the strength of community, right? That we are not only going to emerge from this moment, because we will, depends on how long, right? And how coordinated we are and what else happens in the world. But through the strength of community, right, I have to believe, right, it's possible to come together. And I look forward to connecting further with as many people and as many organizations and institutions as possible to make that community as strong as possible.
I really appreciate you joining me on the SciMike stage this morning.
Jessica.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And just one last programming note. This is the last interview for this session for the SciMike stage, but stay tuned for a discussion with the creators of Starman. That will be starting